Welcome to another version of Mobile Reasoning, where we go out and we find some really powerful Jamaican people out there doing their things and representing the black, green, and gold, as it were. Today, we're meeting with Geraldine Moriba, and she has a wonderful dog named Phineas, and she titles herself the Accidental Journalist. Now, I'm gonna I'm gonna enjoy getting to the bottom of that one. But let's have our mobile reasoning. Hi, Geraldine. How are
Good
you?
morning, good afternoon, hello.
I am very happy that you were able to sit down with us at Good News Jamaica for this mobile reasoning. Um, we always just want to know about Jamaicans in the diaspora doing so well, and we came across. First of all, I want to congratulate you on being now the VP, right, at the
Senior,
Griot.
Senior Vice President.
Vice President at the Griot. Congratulations on landing that wonderful opportunity. I know it's like coming home to you because you were part of the executive team that got it started. Yes.
Yeah, I helped launch it exactly 12 years ago.
Wonderful, wonderful. And the things that I wanted to talk to you about in this little short time that we have is just your chronological build up to where you are now, and to include your Jamaican background. Tell me about your Jamaican background.
Okay, so I am technically Canadian and American, like those are the passports I carry. That's where I was born and where I live today. But my heart and my soul is Jamaican. My family is Jamaican. I spent summers throughout my childhood in Jamaica with my grandparents who lived in Manchester, in Mandeville. My mother's family, my maternal grandmother is from Spurtree,
Oh, nice.
just outside of Mandeville. My parents grew up in Kingston. My mom went to Wolmer's. And so Jamaica is very much a part of my identity. I spent a lot of time. And then by the time I was in high school, I also went to high school in Kingston. I went to high school at St. Andrews, all girls.
Hmm.
And so it really isn't just something where I'm one generation removed. I actually feel like it's part of who I am, my heritage. And I return all the time. I still have family there, of course. And my kids who are now two generations removed, if you ask them where they're from or what their heritage is, they will tell you Jamaican as well.
Oh wow. Oh wow. That's beautiful. I mean, the way you keep the culture alive and popping is just amazing. I like the way that you stay connected to your roots. That is wonderful. Um, being part of the executive team that launched the Griot in 2009, right? You have gone through and you've done some amazing work. I saw under 20 or until 20. Uh, I mean, it had the heartstrings pulling from every direction. But the story that I stuck to was that even in the big bad United States, where they have all this technology and all of this, there was such a failing of the system when it comes to kids cancer with children.
Yeah, I mean, the thing about children's cancer is it's rare. And the reason I did the film is I wanted to bring awareness to what happens when you have a rare cancer. I had a rare cancer, and thank God, thank Jesus, I survived. I did a story about a child who had the same rare cancer and tragically did not. And the story is really about how he lived his last life. And you might not understand this, but he felt like the luckiest person in the world because he said he knew his end date, which meant he could live with meaning and purpose in a way that you don't when you think you're going to live forever and you're young. So he lived with this real, genuine purpose. And I never saw him cry. But the truth is, rare cancers get very little research funding because research is done by pharmaceutical companies and universities, and ultimately they're profit driven. So if you're going to make a drug that only helps a few people, then there's no incentive to make the drug or the medicine or treatment because you're not going to get your money back with what you put in. So there are, as a result, in the US and other countries, government incentives. So there's an incentive around rare cancers for children where well, all children's cancers are rare, but there are incentives where they will tell a pharmaceutical company, we will fast track this drug if you spend time and research on this one. And that's an example of an incentive, but those incentives are far and few between, not enough that we have seen a real change in the treatments offered to children with cancer. And if you think about it, if an adult has cancer and dies, it's tragic. Everybody mourns, you lose a life. But when a child has cancer, you lose their lifetime.
Yeah.
You lose all the potential that they could have created, become. It's a tragedy that's even compounded. So I didn't make a doc about my experience. I made a doc about children because I think that's the biggest tragedy, that we still don't have adequate cures and treatment plans for kids with cancer.
I mean, I can understand the connection with that. I mean, the fact that when you were going through your thing, you had to leave your babies and head down to Texas. But a theme that has been kind of married with yourself is a service of change and social advancement. Your podcast, it sounds like hate. You have to be strong. You have to be strong to be able to take in each one of those podcasts, because I mean they really bring serious social issues to in front of your face. And I mean, just the way that it's produced is just, it's like you're right there. And I think that is the great thing about that. Where did this build in you, this desire to help, to make change, to impact?
Well, first, let me say, Charles, I'm so impressed that you know so much about my career. You've done your homework. You are a very good journalist. I'm impressed. Thank you for even caring. But I think that, listen, because I had a near-death experience, when I was diagnosed, I was told I had 6 months. I was already the kind of person who was motivated to be investigative. I was already curious. I was already a journalist. But I realized after I had that experience that I, at that point, had the tools to do so much more, and relationships and access. And if I did less, it would not, for me, be personally satisfying. So after that experience, I consciously made a choice to pivot my career and start to really focus on opportunities to make a difference, to make the time that I have on this earth, because it is truly fleeting, as meaningful for me and my family and the communities I'm a part of as much as possible.
Yeah.
And ultimately, you named 2 examples of stories I've worked on. One is about childhood cancer. One is about white supremacy and hate in America specifically. They're completely different topics, but what they share is a desire to improve our world for each other and for our children's future.
So you've done this. You've kind of done this throughout your career, at CNN, NBC, PBS, and the list goes on. Have you found a kind of a pushback as a Black woman in trying to unearth these hard topics? Is it that, maybe you shouldn't talk about that? Do you find that pushback?
Yeah, I mean, there's some reality. If I said I didn't, I would not be telling the truth. I've had obstacles at every stage of my career. But I had obstacles. We all have obstacles before we launch our careers. We have obstacles to overcome as children. And I definitely credit my mother's grit and attitude and intelligence in helping to shape me. And all of that comes from her own childhood in Jamaica. So it brings us back home to where she became this adult who had all these obstacles when she immigrated to Canada, but she didn't let them stop us. And you know, when we were growing up, like most Jamaicans, when there were rules, like there were rules after school, there were rules before school, there were rules on the weekend. Like she was a disciplinary. We knew, oops, there's my dog again. We knew what the rules were, and you did not break them. But she also had incredible compassion and instilled it in us, and ambition. And my mother never said, "Are you guys thinking about university?" It was more, which one are you going to, right? It wasn't a question of if you're going, it's what you're going to study. I remember being in junior high school and coming home with a report card I was so excited about. And I got like 97% in science or biology, but it was the sciences. And I was skipping all the way home, and I brought this report card to my mother and I showed her, and she looked at it and she handed it back to me with no comment. And I said, "Mom, I got 90, you know, really almost perfect score in science." And her response was, "Well, you got 70 something in French. So if you can do that in science, you can do that in French. And if you get 99, you can get 100. And so she told me to go do my homework and sent me away. And I walked away. But it resonated, and I'm sharing it as a story now, because the truth is, when you have those life lessons as a child, it stays with you. You know, there's a hashtag Black excellence. My mother pushed for Black excellence in our household before there was a hashtag, right? And that's what I've tried to do with my career and with the people I've been in contact with. You know, the phrase, each one teach one. So every place I've worked, I've done my best to figure out who could mentor me and sponsor me and help me become better at what I do, because life is a long learning curve and I'm still learning. But I also know I've now learned enough at every stage that I can help somebody else. And I think in many ways, that's how I've survived a lot of the institutional racism that I've had to confront, because when one door closed, there was always another one open. And even at the very beginning of my career, the first job I had was at CBC Radio at a show called As It Happens. And I was there when the Rodney King incident happened in LA, the LA riots, remember?
Yes, absolutely.
And it was the first video ever that showed a Black man being beaten by police. Now, we all knew it happened, but we hadn't seen it with our own eyes. And the Rodney King video was really the first viral video of that kind of incident. Absolutely. And I remember when it happened, I went running to the news desk and said, "I want to lead with the story tonight. I want to do the story." And the news, the executive producer said to me that it was a very American story and it was isolated and it didn't happen here in Canada, which you know is not true, and would not assign the story. My dog. So what happened the following day was, of course, that night, it was the lead story everywhere. It was huge. Everybody knows his name. It was a huge story. The next day, what followed was we went to the editorial meeting, and it's a daily editorial meeting in a conference room. Everybody walks in with, you know, their notebooks. I have several in front of me, and you bring your stories to pitch and wire copy. And I was ready. So I had a stack of stories, and the executive producer asked the host of the show what story he would like to launch with. And she turned to me and said, thanks for pitching the Rodney King story. Your instincts are right. We're leading with it tonight. So then the host said the story he wanted to lead with that night was about the parish church that the police officers went to because they were good Catholic boys.
Oh,
And he
wow.
wanted to find out why they did what they did. And at that point, I just put all my papers down.
Mhm.
And she turned to me and said, since you pitched this, Geraldine, you can tell me what other stories we should be doing. And I said to her that I thought we should be interviewing Rodney King's kindergarten teacher. So she asked why. And I said, because his kindergarten teacher is as relevant as the parish priest where these men went to church. Because there's no relevance whatsoever. It was my point.
Mm-hmm.
And there was just silence across the room. And she said, okay, point noted. What stories do you think we should be leading with?
Mm-hmm.
And then I pulled out my papers and I just went one by one by one by one. And we had a lineup for that day. And that was the lineup we ran with that night. When I walked out of that meeting, I went into the women's bathroom, closed the door, and collapsed. It took every ounce of courage I had. I think I was 22 or 23. I was young.
Yeah.
And I took all the courage I had to speak up to these figures of authority. I was the most junior person in that newsroom, the youngest, the least experienced. And I knew I had to channel everything I had to speak up, because in that moment, if they led with that story, it would have been wrong.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But that experience, and afterwards, people were like patting me on the back and saying that was great. It was a learning experience. And the truth is, I haven't shut up since.
And I was just going to say that you have been known to stand up and go against the grain and really push for what is right. How does that now get applied to Nia and Warner, the two Warners? how does mommy apply that to them? Because I know, I mean, like Warner Jr. is a personality of his own, and Nia is a personality of her own. But you are a boss. You make sure that, hey, this needs to be done. It's going to get done. How does that turn over in mommyhood?
Yeah, so I'm totally biased because I think my kids are wonderful. They really are. My mom, when we were growing up, we didn't have a lot, and she said there are some things that are really important. It's really important that you learn a second language. It's really important that you play an instrument. It's really important that you have a sport. It's really like she just gave us these rules. We couldn't, from me and my siblings, afford all of those lessons and all of those things. But I have been fortunate and blessed enough to be able to give my kids what my mother wanted to give to us. And I really wanted the world to be a better place for them by the time they reached adulthood. And, my son has graduated from university. My daughter is in university now. And I think that the world is marginally better, but we still have so many things to address, from climate to racism to diseases to hunger, to all kinds of gender discrimination and so on. And I actually don't think everything will ever be solved, but I do hope that in my kids, I've been able to give them the same kind of courage that I was imparted from my own mother. And I do hope that they, in their own ways, carve out their own path that they feel proud of and hold their head up and are happy with themselves. Nothing is perfect, and we don't have to strive for perfection. I'm not expecting that, but I do expect that whatever you do, to do your best.
Mm-hmm. And that is going to be I mean, that's a theme of yours. Put in your best, no matter, regardless of whatever it is. How do you teach rejection though? How do you teach how to manage rejection? Because I always say you can't let someone's rejection of your skill or your abilities kind of paint a picture of your value, you know? So how do you teach that when, especially in coming from a journalistic point of view where you already are pushing against, you're a female, you're a black female, you have all these things, all these obstacles. How do you push handling rejection?
So I think that there are things we can learn from all of our experiences in life. And some people, when they fall down, they get up, even if it takes effort, they might need someone to help them get up again, and then they get up and they keep going. And other people just can't. And that's unfortunate. And hopefully those of us who can help those who can't, right? I am not the best at anything, but I am the hardest working person you will come across. I will outwork anybody any day on anything I dedicate myself to. And I don't need to be the best, because I know that once I set my sights on a goal, I will figure out which path I have to go till I get there, because that's the only way I know. I hope that my children have learned the same type of characteristics and have a similar attitude. I often worry that I put pressure on my kids because of my expectations, and I think as parents it's something we're concerned about. But what I think the most important lesson is if you have a disappointment, and if you don't attain what you thought you were, it's okay. What you need to do is recalibrate, work hard, and figure out how to do it differently, how to do it better, how to do something entirely different. Because sometimes the path we're on is the wrong path. And if I have a message to anybody listening, it really is about believing in yourself, and not in a way where I can do anything and I'm the best and I'm going to achieve all my dreams. I think that's not realistic. I think much more realistic is to understand we are all human, we are all flawed, but we all have different strengths, and to understand what your strength is and to learn, like just to learn and learn and learn. Your message behind you says believe, inspire, transform. I think that's what learning is all about. And Charles, what you're asking me about is grit, this concept of survival and grit. And that is purely Jamaican. Like that is what Jamaican culture is all about, from Paul Bogle to you. That is what we learn as Jamaicans. You can't outperform us because we will work harder and get to where we need to be.
True. Very true. Very, 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 very true. I love it. I don't want to hold you past your 30 minutes. I know I got about 5 minutes left, but let's talk about the Griot real quick. What are your plans? What are you gonna achieve? What is that thing that's hanging out that you say I gotta get?
So I am so excited for this new stage of life and career. The Griot is right now a Black news site. It's a place where Black America goes, and it's always in the top 3, 4, 5, sometimes top 1 news site for Black Americans. And I'm proud to be joining this organization when it's already on top. But I think it can be so much bigger. I think that we need to take the Griot and do more than focus on news that's happening in America, but look at news across the Pan-African diaspora. We need to look at Black people in Jamaica, Black people in Ghana, Black people in London, in Toronto, wherever we are, Brazil, and bring those stories to the site. So my plan is to broaden our audience base, to not think about this as an American news site, but to think about it as a truly Black news site. If you are Black and from the Caribbean, you can find something here that's interesting to you. If you're Black and you're from South America, you'll find something too. So one thing that I'm going to be doing over the next year is broadening our scope and who we are talking to and talking about. But also we're launching an app that'll be coming out in September or October. We have Griot TV that just started this year. And right now it's a wheel of movies that just go 24 hours. We're going to be adding original programming to that about Black people as well. And then next year, we're going to have a Griot festival, and it'll be a 3-day empowerment festival with everything from performances and music and comedy to literature and TED Talks, type talks, and so on. So it'll be empowerment. Like, you can have fun, but while you're having fun, come and listen to this headliner and see what they're saying about what's happening right now with redistricting laws in the US. While you're dancing to the reggae in this tent, when you're done, come over here and listen to this author who's talking about anti-Black racism and structural change that can happen. And here are some solutions. And so it's a mixture. You'll come in for one, but while you're there, we'll give you something else.
Right. Boy, that sounds, whoo, that sounds exciting. That's, hey, look, this, don't forget us. Because we
Good News Jamaica.
Absolutely. We want to make sure.
Charles.
Yes.
Charles, I'm going to say to you, when you have stories, let me know. Just reach out. We want to share stories. We want stories from Jamaica and everywhere else. So, like, this is a pipeline. It's an invitation.
All right. Good to go. Good to go. I will definitely keep you in the loop with that. I want to thank you so much for sitting with us. I know you have a busy schedule, and I'm absolutely privileged that I got this little bit of time with you, because it's just the beginning. Thank you, my sister. And
thank you.
I know you lick about your talawa. I know you're going to do your thing.
Little and talawa, yes.
That's right. So I look forward to seeing all the wonderful things that TheGrio is going to put out over the next few years, that you're going to be there. And I hope to be a part, like you said, I'm going to be sharing with you stories from Jamaica, empowerment stories. That's what we do. And I'm going to see this thing grow.
Blessings, Charles. Thank you for this opportunity to speak with you.
Yeah, man. Yeah, man. And take care. Walk good. Hold your head up. Chest wide. You know, it go already.
Yes.
All right.
Yes, for sure.
One love and God bless.
One love. Bye-bye.
Thank you for checking us out on Good News Jamaica TV for content that informs, inspires, and transforms. Please like, share, leave a comment, subscribe, and hit the notification bell for more positive Jamaica content. Walk good.